I'm Couch Goop. I'm here to talk about Starfield for a bit, and we've had some leaks from one of the developers. We've had a big announcement about June, and I also want to confirm that it's no way ever going to come to a Sony system. What a bit of devastation, but that would have happened with the Microsoft buyout. I wonder if there was ideas to push it towards Sony in its early development. There's been some recent PR put out. I've picked up on a couple of things that has been spoken about within the staff of the Bethesda studios about this game. Some of it's very suspicious, and they've, I think, inadvertently dropped a few clangers. Todd remains as positive as ever though, and he's come out with some pretty enthusiastic lines about the game that we'll go into in a second. I want to talk about the prophecy, right? The weird thing, and CDPR did it. So they had that Witcher 3, everyone loved them, and then they sort of swung round with a slightly below par release after that. Skyrim, probably one of the world's most popular action RPGs. Bethesda were gods in the industry for well over a decade. Then I don't think they misused that trust, but they pushed out Fallout 76 on the biggest half-assed release you've ever seen in your life. And check these dates out. I reviewed it. I got it reviewed on day of release. I got it about 2 days ahead. I literally logged in, ran around, saw some pop in, and put the review out. Very different to how things are done now. It also got me thinking about Fallout 76's Always Online, because I've got it installing at the moment, and it's just about to finish the update, and I thought, can I just check anything out without it updating? Nothing. And I was really angry at Gran Turismo doing that. Bethesda did it 4 years ago. That is a bit of foreshadowing. I am going to look at 76 again. It's been 4 years. My save file will be ancient, and so that will be interesting to see on a surface level what's happened to that game after stepping back into it, because they have pumped a lot. They've done a No Man's Sky on the backpedaling with free content and updates. Some of it looks really mental, like Martians coming down, and I'll come back to you on it. Enough about Fallout 76. I want to play you this really cute line from Howard. Bless him.
I always say that the one thing video games can give you that nothing else in entertainment can is that feeling of pride, right? Look what I did.
He does get it. He understands. Everyone who talks about that studio always mentions him and how on the ground he is and hands-on with everything. But Todd, you owe me more than pride and accomplishment.
You owe me all.
Let's talk about the developer leak, because the long and short of it is someone left that studio, started blogging about the experience they had and where they're up to with the game. They've been like gagged now and it's all been removed, but it was very interesting. The guy said it was using an ancient engine and that flying around just felt really crap, and there's a hell of a lot more work to do. There are certain aspects of it that are shining, but at the moment it's nowhere near what it's got to compete with. And that EVE Online, and of course Star Citizen, which is a super interesting case study. It was kickstarted by this space simulator industry veteran, and the whole thing has turned into the most expensive nightmare, and all the promises, well, most of them haven't technically been delivered. It's like a saga that has gone on for nearly half a decade. Star Citizen is nowhere near any of its promises on its launch for delivery.
It's at the top of the list, you know, if we could do that.
And that brings me on to the Bethesda model of game design and game making. And there's a lady that pipes up in this press release video that says something really damned interesting, and it's kind of about people taking their content and modding it and doing what they want with it, or the sheer massive scope of the worlds that they create bring up examples or scenarios that they as developers haven't seen before. Now that is a huge worry, because it points towards a lack of extensive play testing. With an open world game like Skyrim, you could probably sink 10 years into trying to run every variable and every object all over the world. I understand that, but they have this huge history of not playtesting their games enough, and the whole thing falling over constantly within the first 3 weeks of release. We even saw that in early Fallout 3 release and Fallout 4. I remember the dog's eyes popping out of his head. There was loads of stuff on Twitter.
The mechanics of the world are entirely different.
So when you start thinking about Bethesda's recent track record and their method of testing against the size of the worlds that they're building, they're now dealing with space and the entire universe. So God only knows what is going to go wrong in that direction. It's a little bit like a bunch of builders making a house, and you know full well that house is way too big for them to approach as a task, but they'll do do it anyway, and you'll probably just walk into the front door and it just won't be hinged. It'll fall on the ground. Rooms will be bricked up. It's going to be interesting. Stick to bungalows, Todd. That's my advice, mate. Small steps.
There's definitely this core group who's been working together for decades and knows how to make a BGS game. And then there's this, new generation of game developers who are coming in and working at BGS.
What they're referring to there is the decades of bugs that appear in their games from a team that probably are due a refresh, and then they're bringing in all of these TikTokers who have only got experience making mobile games and playing Genshin Impact. So what could possibly go wrong? It's only going to be roses from here to June with this big announcement. Todd also says something else really interesting about the new environment or discovering the new area. You know that moment when you walked out the vault, and Bethesda were brilliant at it. They did it in Oblivion very well. Coming out of that cave or just seeing the world in its opening glory, they really target that. Every single one of their open games has got this big reveal, and you come out of the cellar, vault, cave, pit, whatever. But Todd says this, which I found quite suspicious. That's the word I'm looking for.
I like to say that Starfield has 2 step-out moments. It's cryptic.
Padding, that's what that says to me. There's 2 reveal moments, meaning that you'd probably get one on the planet. So you start in a pit, I guarantee you, and you see the planet, wow, first time, and then you get in your ship and you see, the event horizon for the first time or something, the universe from your little cockpit for the first time. They have diluted that moment. I hope they don't lose that, because it is a trademark for their games, and they would always go all in with it. They wouldn't stagger it, and so I'm dubious of that statement.
Vasco's design is based on a standard Type A bipedal chassis.
We're looking at a quite recent release about the robot that you've got with you. I'm going to say it's called Vasco, and it looks quite interesting. Interstellar had a pretty cool robot, and this one could be similar, with maybe helping you out, maybe being an upgradable protector, some guns. We haven't seen any weaponry yet, and that is another thing from that developer leak, is that he said the combat is janky as hell. Feels like Fallout, and that is not a good thing to say about gun combat.
Everything I've worked on at this studio, the music started very early on, as early as the concept art for the game.
I wanted to touch very quickly on the audio and the music for the game, and one of the things that I felt could have sold this to the entire world in the blink of an eye on a soundtrack level was to get Hans Zimmer on board. They've got the money. Surely that man is not that expensive. This game has been in development for a hell of a long time. I don't know who this bloke is, but Hans would have nailed this. I'm being so awful, I'm being so mean. I think I'm subconsciously angry that we're never going to get it on the Sony side. Everybody who owns Game Pass will get this, and I think a lot of my audience pretty much straddle Game Pass and Sony. If you have a low-end PC like a laptop, then I would say get Game Pass anyway, because the indie games on that side are blowing away all of the other subscription services, and they run on a Game Boy.
The way I looked at Starfield always is what I called the sanctified triplet.
Here's the thing, I love Bethesda games. Their early development, Morrowind, Oblivion and Skyrim, are some of the best games in the world. Fallout 3 even Fallout 4, and Bethesda desperately need a win at the moment, and the Microsoft buyout, I think, is going to make sure that the Q&A process is not going to be the same as their previous, and it's going to have to be a pristine, full-on working game. It won't be able to come out of the gate, I don't think, without that process being done, and I think that's a good thing. That if we see delays on it, or if it takes more polish, I'm so up for that, because think about how good No Man's Sky looks, sounds and plays at the moment. Elite Dangerous is not a bad game at all, with stunning visuals and a world that is mind-blowingly big and mathematically accurate. So they've got so much to do if they're going to beat some of the older flight space simulator games. It's not a small task, but I think Bethesda could do it deep down. I think if they put the game through enough, hold it back if they feel that it's not going to be the golden chalice that this studio desperately needs at the moment. They haven't come out with anything decent for half a decade. I'll stand by that. Deathloop was not a good game, and that broke my heart a little bit. And Doom, Eternal was more of the same. I know that was more id Software than Bethesda, but that is something that wasn't breaking the mold. But Jesus, it's ray traced in 60 frames per second, and probably the best looking offline first person shooter in the world. But complacent Coop wants more.
where you have these very vast distances against this black starry background. It is a blank canvas and a massive playground, and all the pieces are there for you to write your own story.
What do you think about Starfield? Are you angry that it's not coming to Sony? And do you think that this June date is going to reveal something massive? And do you know about any of the other leaks? I want it all in the comments, please. I have been Couchskip. I will see you down there.